All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 28, 2025 Lakeville Area Schools Board Meeting. Please rise with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to start with roll call. If we could start with the directors on my right, and then moving left.
Amber Cameron.
Brett Nicholson.
Paul Carbone.
Matt Swanson.
Michael Bauman.
Kim Baker.
Carly Anderson.
Brian Thompson.
And if the executive cabinet would want to introduce themselves.
Brenda Albrecht, Executive Director of Administrative Services.
Emily McDonald, Assistant Superintendent.
Michelle Humphrey, Executive Director of Student Services.
And Bill Holmgren, Executive Director of Business Services.
All right, and as always, we have Kim Elsing with us helping out. Thank you, Kim. I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Bauman for the good news.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Start with Students of the Month. Lakeville Area Schools has a Students of the Month recognition program that highlights 3 students each month. Students can be nominated by anyone in the Lakeville Area Schools community, students, staff, families, and community members. And we're excited to announce that January's students are Cielo Rincon, second grade in Eastview Elementary School, Jackson Jungers, 7th grade from Kenwood Trails Middle School, and Lincoln Colo, who's a 9th grader at Lakeville North High School. Just want to offer congratulations and way to go. Staff of the Month. I got more.
We're not done.
No,
All right.
there's so much good news in Lakeville. We have a lot to do tonight. Staff of the Month. Lakeville Area Schools is excited to have a monthly recognition program that also highlights our staff members who are nominated by anyone in the Lakeville Area Schools community. And we're excited to announce that January's staff are Tyler Emanuel, special education teacher at Lake Marion Elementary School. Yay! And Stephanie Callert, an EL specialist at Oak Hills Elementary School. Mr. Chair, wait, there's more. This is a great one, not that the others aren't great too. Lakeville South's Lisa Smith is named Physical Education Teacher of the Year. So congratulations. Lisa Smith, who has been named the 2025 Shape America Central District High School Physical Education Teacher of the Year. SHAPE is Society of Health and Physical Educators, is a leading organization dedicated to advancing the work of health and physical educators across the country. As a district honoree, Smith is now eligible for the prestigious National Teacher of the Year Award, which will be announced at the 2025 Shape America National Convention and Expo, set to take place in Baltimore in April of this year. So, again, congratulations, Lisa. And as always, if you want to read more about the amazing things happening in our district, isd194.org/news is where you can find that. And that is good news, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Superintendent Bauman. We're going to move on to the approval of the agenda. If there are no requests for modification to the agenda, I'd be open to a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Chair Baker, or by Baker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, it is approved. On to the consent agenda. Were there any items for discussion that anyone wanted to talk about on the consent agenda?
Yeah, I've got 2 questions here in the consent agenda. We've got, in Section C, employment recommendations, looks like we're hiring a interim special education coordinator and then Looks like we also have another special education resource teacher that we're hiring as well. So I guess my question around those two is for the district, are we caught up yet in all of our special education hiring needs? Because I think at the last meeting or a couple weeks back, we were 26 resources short.
The answer is not caught up in our needs, but working as hard as we can toward that. I'm sorry, I should have.
No? Okay. Jump right in.
And the second question that I have is that I think I saw in the non-affiliate staff change request, their school success liaisons. We've now, I think there's 4 or 6 of them. Looks like there is an increase in the days per school year from 185 to 205. So I'm just double checking, where are we getting that funding out of? How is that being covered? How many do we have? And then maybe some clarification on the role that they have within our districts.
I'm going to ask Nicole Adams to provide that.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the question. We currently have 5 liaisons with a 6th starting next week. They currently are on a 185-day contract. They are moving to a 205-day contract with approval. That is funded out of our A&I budget. What was your other question?
What will they be doing since we don't have kids in our schools in those extra 20 days?
Our liaisons spend a tremendous amount of time connecting with families, and so a lot of their time is actually working with families to ensure that they're able to adequately navigate our system. So though we don't have students in the district, they spend a lot of time doing home visits and going to a lot of community events to make sure that they're liaising with the community and the school district.
And that's coming out of the A&I budget, so we're not going to be over.
No, we are well within range.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. I had one question. On the resignations, is this and just so the public knows, so this is the first time we've received, or a number of the new board members have received this packet. I was just wondering, is this a normal number of resignations for this time period, or?
I'll ask Brenda Albrecht to share. I know there's fluctuation, and it's not same number every time, but I'll let her answer.
Yeah, I would agree with Superintendent Bauman. It depends on the time of the year, what time of the year some people decide to retire. Sometimes we have people resign for personal or family reasons, but it is a large district, and you will see on the personnel recommendations at each meeting, it is quite lengthy whether we're hiring or people are resigning.
Yeah. Do we do exit interviews and get some feedback in regards to why, now, not retirement, but for other reasons to leave?
Yes, when someone resigns, they receive a email with an exit interview, and they can elect to answer the questions in that exit interview or not.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brenda. Any other questions? All right, with that, I'd move to approve the consent agenda items. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Director Cameron. All approved, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. All right, on to reports and discussions. We're looking at our second reading of the proposed cell phone policy for the district. We discussed this a couple weeks ago, and then Brenda's going to fill us in on some more information, I believe.
Yes. Thank you. Good evening, Chair Swanson, Superintendent Bauman, and members of the school board. You have before you this evening a second reading of the proposed cell phone policy. New legislation requires a school district or charter school to adopt a policy on students' possession and use of cell phones in schools by March 15th, 2025. This provision, effective May 18th of 2024, also requires the Minnesota Elementary School Principals Association and the Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals to collaborate and make best practices available on a range of different strategies to minimize the impact of cell phones on student behavior, mental health, and academic achievement. And presenting on this policy this evening is Principal Kim Booty from Lakeville North High School.
Hello, everybody. I don't know that we've all met, so it's nice to see you. Last reading, the first reading of the school board policy, there were several questions that people had about how does this actually look at the high school? And the proposal that 9-12 is different than the middle school. And so I wanted to give you just some real-life facts of where we're at and what that looks like at the high school. First of all, I want you to know that our high school kids are amazing kids. And they are very compliant when it comes to the expectation of phones. Now, we're all attached or tethered to our phones, so we definitely have our moments, right? But the reason the proposal is coming to you that 9-12 looks differently is we believe at the high school not only are we teaching curriculum, but we're teaching lifelong skills. And if we think about what we're sending our students into the world to face, they will probably check their phones during lunch, on their lunch breaks, in their jobs. They'll probably check their phones on the way to one meeting to another. And so we feel strongly that from bell to bell during class, phones should be put away because we want them to truly focus in on instruction. But we also understand the reality of our students are the transportation for siblings. And so there may be a change and they need to know that information. We have a lot of students who are in activities and their coaches or advisors do not actually teach in our school. So they need a way to be able to communicate with those practice schedules and things along those lines. And the reality is that a lot of our students work. And so there's that piece as well. As we try to help our students navigate what that next step in life looks like, we feel very strongly that giving them the chance to learn when it is appropriate to have your phone and when it is appropriate to put your phone away is a very valuable lesson. So I'm trying to think to some of the questions that were asked, and I do know the question was asked, like, what about during lunch? Well, it's the whole gamut, because when they're eating, they're not on their phones. They're talking, they're visiting, and I would say if you came to a lunchroom at North or South, you would hear conversation. And at the same time, there are some people who need a little break from the stress and the things of school, and they're gonna play a few games on their phone, and they're going to kind of have that time to kind of decompress. So I would say that what you would see is a wide variety in that lunchroom. Sometimes they're on their phones and sometimes they're not, and that is a kind of a personal preference in that space. There was a question about recording things at school. Yep, they also record things, people record things at the airport, at the mall, at the driving past an accident. That's reality. Our mission is to help them understand that if you've recorded something, why? And if it's something you shouldn't have, help them understand why it's not appropriate to keep that information and that it's never appropriate to film someone without permission. So again, trying to give those life lessons in that setup. Did I catch all of them, or have you had new ones? Oh, I think there was another one about social media.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a monster we can't battle. I would say that when we deal with social media issues at school, they are not issues that happen during school. They're issues that have happened over the weekend that carry into school. And so those are things that are not happening right in front of us. We address when we can, and we follow through when we can. Our teachers are very good about being consistent about protocol. You put your phone away. If it's a test, you put your phone in the pocket. And that is how we're rolling. So hopefully that has given you some other ideas of what it looks like at the high school.
Just one quick question for
Yeah.
you. So do you agree with the policy as it's drafted, or would you recommend any tweaks to it?
As drafted, so that 9-12 is students have phones away during class, but they have the ability to have phones out from during passing time and at lunch.
All right. One more question, just so I'm clear. If a student posts something online on social media when they're not in the school, is that something that they would, be in trouble for when they come to school if it becomes an issue, or how do you address that?
It depends on if it actually becomes a school issue. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on that we don't ever know about. But there are some times when it becomes a big enough issue that it disrupts the school day. And when there's a disruption in the school, the day-to-day operation and things like that, then we do tend to get involved.
All right. Thank you. Director Nicholson?
Do we do any sort of training at the beginning of the year for kids in high school to give them awareness in terms of what the phone can do to them nowadays? In terms of recording, in terms of, recording all conversations and the potential liability that they can open themselves up to. Have we ever done anything like that? Maybe that's a broader question to.
It's a great question, and we do go through what's in our handbook about expectations and follow-through. We do not, I don't know that we get into it as deeply as what you're suggesting. Not opposed to that, and that is definitely something that we can do more of. And I think that education has to start before high school. Like, we need to talk about what that phone does and what it doesn't do and how it can carry with you. I do know that as we talk about your careers and what's your next steps and what do you post and how that can come back to you, we do have those conversations very regularly.
Director Anderson.
I very distinctly remember a few years ago there was this amazing training that was, not training, presentation done by some of the district leadership in terms of, or it was for parents. And my husband and I both went to it, and it was basically talking about cell phone use and kids and all the threats. I mean, my mind was blown in terms of what our SROs are finding out about that's going on in not just our community, but in our surrounding community. And I just wanted to commend our district for doing that, and I think it would be great to have that offered on a more regular basis, because I don't think parents, I feel like I'm kind of up to speed on some things in life, and I mean, we both walked out of there just so surprised about what's actually happening.
That was a really fun partnership with the faith
Police.
communities, the police department, and our school districts. So yes, we've talked about bringing some of those pieces back.
Director Thompson.
So I am, I think, directionally aligned with the cell phone policy. So no cell phones, kindergarten through 8th grade, 9th through 12th. I think I was probably on the camp of no cell phones from bell to bell. I spoke with my son and his friends, and they were not in favor of that. So, but the ultimate goal is to minimize distraction in the classrooms. So as long as we don't have cell phones in the classrooms, that's good. I've got a couple policy questions, and I'll speak to that separately. But the question I have for you is that, how do we then enforce this? While we ask students not to bring their cell phones into high school classrooms, and is it going to vary based on the teacher? Do we put them in little pockets? Do we confiscate them for the day? And then are we taking something away from a student that belongs to them? So
the policy as it reads is they either need to keep their phone in their backpacks, purses, or away, or if a teacher collects and has a phone pocket, that they need to drop it in the phone pocket. A lot of our teachers will use the phone pocket, especially on assessment days, because they don't want that temptation, or they don't want any sort of distraction. And so we have given our teachers some freedom to how they want to enforce it in their classroom. There is a plan in place that if a student has their phone out, you ask them to put it away. If they do not put it away, you ask them to place it on their desk. And if after a third round, then it is brought to the office. So we try to give our students as many opportunities to self-regulate in that process of not having those phones out during class. And there's a lot of high school kids here, and I know that they could probably also speak to the fact that there is some freedom sometimes, and there's also some that some teachers are very strict about it. So it's about also figuring out who your bosses are and how you're going to work with the rules that they established in that space.
Director Thompson.
Just a follow-up, thank you. Just a follow-up to that. So when it's brought to the office, who takes it to the office? Like, are teachers responsible for taking the phone or confiscating the phone or whatever you want to call it? Are they then, do they just take it in the classroom and then they bring it to the office when they have a free time? Do we call her an SRO? I just want to be mindful that we're not putting teachers in a position where, I don't want to say they're the bad guy, but if they're not following the process, what are we doing to making sure that it's not them, it's the policy,
Right.
and how do we enforce that?
I think it depends on the teacher. Some teachers are very comfortable just bringing it up to the office. Some will call for a security person to pick it up and bring it to the office, and some will call directly for the assistant principal to come down, grab the phone, and bring it to the office.
Dr. Anderson?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I know we talked about this in the back a little bit, but what is happening with the earbuds and watches and that kind of stuff? Because I feel like that's a little bit.
Yeah,
it's a new
I would
thing.
say on behalf of the watches, we don't see a lot of infractions or issues with the watches. We do see more with the earbuds, and that is sometimes a struggle to. We're not going to wrestle a kid and get the earbuds out, right? Like the reality is again, we're going to ask them to remove them. A lot of times they will keep one in and keep their music playing on their phone in the pocket. So we try to just have, again, those conversations, use those as teachable moments to explain, you got to pay attention. You got to have both ears. You got to be ready. And there are times when, yes, you may listen to music because we're doing work right now. And so sometimes permission is given for that.
All right. Thank you, Principal Buddy.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, may I interject here a little bit?
Please do.
I think with regard to the policy, there is one area in the middle school, and I asked Dr. Alexander to come and address that I would like to refine the language so that we are clear on storage of middle school cell phones in lockers. And I asked Dr. Alexander if he would share and explain what the practice is.
So thank you for having me here tonight. I represent all three middle schools, Kenwood, McGuire, and Century. And so for all of us, we did send messages out to our families in the fall. Same letter. All of our community knows because the changes were coming from our legislative, our body, from that. So with us, our key though, with the change to the policy, we ask that it be in their locker, away, not on their person. When a student has it, they're going to check it. You know, our kiddos don't quite have the maturation of a high school student who can kind of regulate, self-regulate. So for our kids, taking away the temptation, it's in the locker, it's not a problem for them. So that would be a recommendation that we would choose as the middle school, is having that device in the locker. Not just away and out of sight, but in a physical other place in their locker. And all of our students at the middle school do have a locker.
Are you finding that it is disruptive in the classrooms for the middle schoolers if they have their cell phone on them?
Not this year. We haven't had a lot of issues this year. Last year, yes. Years before, yes, because kids would want to check. They'd have it out. They'd have it out in the hallway. Then that's where you really get into that social side of who's texting whom, and you get into all that.
So this year, did you switch to the must be in the locker policy or practice?
All three schools made that change this year, yes.
Okay. And that's been successful this year?
It has been successful.
That's great to hear.
Chair. So I'm assuming then we would change the language on number 2, where it says cell phones and other personal electronic devices should remain silent and out of sight. That would be in their locker, correct? Is that the language change you're looking for?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Great, too. What is the policy? I mean, if you see a student and he looks like they have a cell phone in their pocket, you know, what's the procedure then?
Sure. Well, there's a relationship you try to have with all of your kids, whether it's a teacher, whether it's principal or assistant principal, dean. If you were to have it in our building and I would know you have it, I would ask you, I'd say, Matt, do you have your cell phone on you? And you'd probably say, yes, Dr. Alexander, I do. And I would say, can you please return that to your locker? And they would comply. Our kids are great. As we said before, we have great kids in Lakeville. They do what's asked of them. And their parents are great because they enforce that. But they do. They return it. And if they don't, then it's a different conversation. I need to have your phone. And the kid's okay. And if that's the case, we take it. We have a place in our student services area where we keep the phones for our kids. End of the day, for the first time, if it's their first offense, they get it back. Second offense goes to their parent. We have their parent come in and actually pick it up. Third time, we actually have a parent meeting and say, we have an issue here. We're not able to get past that. Here's our policy. Here's what we've set up for that. And our parents have been great to support that.
Thank you. Dr. Cameron.
Dr. A, this might not be a question for you necessarily, but in editing number 2, do all elementary classrooms have lockers? I don't. I think my youngest doesn't. So I just wanted to, I don't know if we need to have a separate thing for pre-K 5 or like, how do we handle that, I guess, when there's not the physical locker available?
I actually connected with Mr. Hellberg, who is our principal at Cherryview Elementary, and my understanding is the majority of kids do have a locker or a safe place to be able to, a cubby, something that if they do have a phone, that they can put that away as well.
Okay.
And that is the expectation at the elementary as well. I do have what they sent out for the families as well this year.
Great. So maybe just lockers or
Locker,
other.
cubby, yeah.
Something, yeah, something like that.
Yep.
Director Thompson.
I don't have any questions for you, so I've got 3 policy or content questions, so I don't know if you guys have any other questions, and he can go sit down if he likes, but.
No.
No? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
So the first one that I have is just the second paragraph or the last sentence of the cell phone use. This policy includes cell phones, personal electronic devices, earphones, Bluetooth or wired. I'm just wondering if that needs to be broader in scope with AI devices, AI glasses that might be coming up, or do you call that as personal electronic devices? And then also maybe a statement that says devices that may have a direct or indirect access to the internet in any kind of capacity. So I'm just wondering if this is going to kind of confine us to just cell phones and that's it. So that's my thought on that one.
Is there an area that you think personal electronic devices would not cover?
I don't know. I just don't know if that's broad enough.
I was going to say, I feel like that's vague enough. I mean, the reality is this technology is so rapidly changing all the time that I think we want a policy that if that terminology kind of captures the majority of things that kids are going to have now and potentially in the future, I feel like it's vague enough to fall under the policy.
Okay.
Do you have a second question, too?
Yeah. Second one that I have is on section B, number 2. Cell phones or other personal electronic devices, blah, 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 with the exception of medical management. Are there scenarios where a personal cell phone device might be used that's not medical, but might be like your IEP or like a 403, the 403B plan? Well, I don't think that's the one. 505? 504. 504? Yeah. Are there scenarios where cell phones are included in that? And so I'm assuming, go ahead.
So typically when we assign an assistive technology device to a student, we try to use the electronic equipment that the district offers because kids don't like to look different than their peers. So because we're a one-to-one device district, we would use, like, I think for elementary it would be the iPad, or for secondary it could be like the Chromebook. So technically they're using the devices that everybody uses. We just add extensions on our different apps. So like the Google Read and Write is one that's pretty common. And then, if there's an organizational thing, we add apps to the devices that they already use for the district so that they look like their peers.
And so the last one that I have is section 3, respect for privacy rights. Number 1, students shall not record, photograph, or video other students or school employees on school property. And so I think that's the one that I have questions around school employees on school property. Are there scenarios where a student needs to take a picture, or should they not take pictures? Are public employees? And are they can students take pictures and video, or is that something that's illegal? Is that against the law? It is on school property. It is a public education system. So that was one where I wasn't sure. Could a student get in violation if they recorded something of a teacher, but here in the statute or here in this policy says that they can't?
You're talking about without the
Without their
teacher's
consent.
permission.
Yeah. So what is what's the definition of a school employee, and do they have those privacy rights on school premises?
Yeah. Well, I guess some of it would be, is it during class time too? Because that would be a violation of the policy versus, outside in the parking lot or something like that. But no, I don't know the answer to that.
An employee would be anybody that is in our payroll, substitute teachers, could be any of our staff. The policy is a guide by which, if it's violated, you have you have this document and these words in order to do any follow-on enforcement of that. I think if, as I'm an employee of the school district, and I get photographed, don't know why, a lot. And I think there's context that's probably part of that, and that we would want to apply our judgment in that. But in general, if there's nefarious purpose to filming or digital videoing, you'd want to have a mechanism to mitigate that and or deal with it, because you shouldn't be doing that. And we know that we have to provide consent to photograph our students for anything that's but is official district activity. And if a parent or a guardian hasn't authorized that, then we go to lengths to make sure that we don't violate that. So I think it's for personal protection. It's the wild, wild west sometimes. And I think to have a policy that gives us something to go to and to work from is probably a good idea.
Any questions? No? All right, with that, I guess we'll move on. Director Cameron?
I know at last week's meeting, I think it was, right, we established the policy committee. Chair, would you like, and I know you're on it, would you like the three of us to meet, revise this, and then bring it back for vote or conversation at the next meeting? Like, would that be helpful to the board? Or like, what are next steps, I guess, that you would like to take?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a resolution as far as how the policy committee works or what that procedure is yet, but no, I'd be fine with that. I know there's some initial discussions and I know we have to check on timing, what time works for all of us to meet and go over that, but yeah, I'd be fine with that. And I think our deadline, Superintendent Bauman, is March, first part of March, or March 1? March 15th? Okay. So we have a little time to get this in place.
Just a reminder that those are still public meetings, so make sure that you share that date with Kim Elson so that she can publicize that.
Will do. All right. Any reports from the board members? Did anybody attend any council in the last couple weeks that they'd like to share some information about? Director Anderson?
I was at the Gifted Advisory Council probably a couple weeks ago now, 2-3 weeks ago, and I just wanted to say how happy I was to see several of our students come and talk about their experience in the district, and they answered a lot of our questions, which was great. There was some presentation of data across the different levels of the gifted programming, and I think the great news was that overall our students in this programming are very happy with what they are being offered. So that was great to see. And the one addition that I had to plug, because I care about the counselors in our school a lot, was the students there talked about how helpful the counselors have been at the high school level this year, and how important they have been to help them consider what are next steps for them in their academic or career journey. And they just, that was unprompted, and they all kind of talked about the importance of that. So just something that I think we keep hearing about this in multiple different avenues, and I think we should keep on our radar.
Thanks, Carly. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to defer. We have a lot of people here, and I think they want to get to public comment, so if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. All right, public comment. I think this will be the first meeting for most of this board where public comment is taking place or people have signed up. We did have a lot of people sign up, so I'm just going to read what I believe are the published rules for public comment, and then we'll get rolling. So I am going to open up the floor for 30 minutes to allow for public comment, to address any comments or concerns to the board. In order to participate in public comment, individuals would have had to register in advance using the form on our website. If you want to do that for future meetings, you have to do so by noon on the Monday before the scheduled public comment session. We will be having public comments at all standard board meetings, so three times a month until April, and then we're going down to 2 times a month. So There will be no board responses during the session to your public comment. The board, I'm assuming what most of you are here to talk about, will probably be addressed in a little while once the board actually engages in that discussion. Public comments framed as complaints and or concerns about students and or staff are not appropriate in the public forum due to data privacy laws. These comments should be addressed to the administration outside of a public meeting. Likewise, complaints about school board members should be privately directed to the board chair and or the superintendent. Typically, if the public comment isn't about something that's already scheduled for a vote, no formal action will be taken on a topic presented during public comment. And as needed, the administration will follow up with the appropriate personnel on any concerns that need to be individually addressed. Also, if necessary, the board will follow up during board communications at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. Individual remarks are limited to 3 minutes. We will provide a signal when the participant has 30 seconds remaining of their time. Please try to keep the audience noise to a minimum so that everyone can be heard and just show everyone respect as they're speaking. We will go for 30 minutes. You don't have to speak for 3 minutes. So if you go for less, we'll get through more people. Everyone's name who signed up for public comment has been put in a little bucket here. And Director Carbone will pull a name out and get things rolling. Director Baker will be timing everybody. And if you want to raise your hand maybe when there's 30 seconds left. All right, with that,
We ready to start?
We'll open it up.
Very good. Natalie Kay.
Hello, Board. I would like to thank you for your time and opportunity to speak in support of removing the inclusive signs series, which includes the politically charged BLM signs from all schools, including the district offices. I know that no one on this board has been responsible for these posters being placed all over our schools, and it's not fair that you have to be responsible for the previous board's choices and decisions, which have included these posters that have failed to represent all of the children that live in our community. These posters have isolated, divided, and caused children to wonder why their life doesn't matter and why they are not represented on the school walls. This has also caused the district to spend so much time, resources, and money in legal fees. The most responsible thing would be for the district to remove these posters in order to avoid further legal issues. The fact that the case against the school district has gone as far as the Supreme Court proves that these posters are indeed political and divisive in nature. It is time for the district to move back to a neutral position and create a positive learning environment for all students, free from distractions. Posters can't welcome children, they can't love on children, include children, or make them any safer. Only people can. It's their teachers and the school staff that make every student feel welcome and safe in their classrooms. All the teachers that my children have had in Lakeville schools have done just that. Let's move our district's focus back to include all children to help each child grow and flourish in reading, writing, math, and science. It's time to shift our focus to academic excellence for everyone. Let's help each child feel included by teaching them to read, write, and do math at grade level and beyond. Let's focus our money, time, and resources on helping these children to rise to high standards of academic learning and to support those who are struggling. Thank you for moving this district in the right direction.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Natalie.
Just out of respect for everyone, if we could maybe not clap in between, otherwise I could get a little crazy.
Yeah, very good. The second speaker is Austin M.
Hello, everybody. My name is Austin Meyer, and I am a teacher at Lakeville North High School. I am also the advisor for SAGE, which is our school's LGBTQ+ Alliance group. I just want to imagine that I am interviewing for my job at my school, and I were to say that not all students matter, and that diversity is not important or celebrated, and that actually I should discriminate against students based off of their gender, race, sexuality, socioeconomic status, etc. And I can promise that I would not be hired by the school. That it goes against our values as teachers and the belief that every single student has a place to belong. I talked to some of my students today. They approached me. They were very concerned about this proposal. And some of the students had some important things to share. It's not about these signs being political. It's the idea that these signs show students that you are welcomed here. Because a lot of our students go through the school day not knowing whether or not they will be accepted or loved and appreciated. And if you go enter into a room where you don't feel safe or valued or seen, there's no way that you can learn, right? Our affective filters go up, we shut down, and there's no way that we can do what we come to school for, which is to learn and make connections and learn how to become better citizens. Some of the things my students said, they shared with me is that some of them have suffered anxiety, depression, self-harming, or suicidal thoughts. And when you see an environment, when you see in your environment that that you are loved and belonged, it changes things. Another student said that inclusive posters made her feel a lot safer to be herself and around people who aren't her friends. And if they got taken down, she would most likely revert to closing off and refusing help that saved her life. If mental health is important, like, why would we not keep up these signs? Another student shared that they've had many things thrown at them in class because of their different colored hair, their different looks, and their sexual identity and gender expression. And seeing these posters and seeing where spaces are safe, that has built connections where they know that they belong and that they have succeeded academically because of that. Another student writes,
30 seconds.
Another student writes, getting rid of all signs attempting to bring awareness to minorities and communities such as the LGBTQ+ community can further damage groups and people such as themselves. The signs, this person writes, even though the signs they might just be a sign, it will show each other that, just a sign is a really important thing for these kids, to know that they're valued and they're loved and appreciated.
Sorry.
Please keep them.
Thank you, Austin.
The third speaker is Sarah R. Sarah R., is she here?
No, there's no way.
Okay.
There might be a delay on the recording.
Yeah.
Sarah R. Do you want to call another name and we'll
Sarah
just
R.
we'll rotate her in if she comes
Sarah
in?
R. going once, twice,
8, 10.
third time? Okay. Danielle C.
Good evening, members of the board. Okay, I've done some research of my own, and to my understanding, the main concern is specifically about the Black Lives Matter posters. Let's do a little quick refresher here. The Black Lives Matter movement was created in 2013 by 3 Black women following the death of Trayvon Martin to raise awareness of the racial injustices that Black people face every day. These posters don't have any political ideologies on them, and the purpose wasn't to say that all lives don't matter. Its purpose was to shine light on the Black communities affected by systemic racism and police brutality. I'd also like to share a fact that I remember from my AP psychology class last year. During the early years of a child's life, children make 1 million neural connections every second. That statistic is just a number, but it also reflects how perceptive children are and how crucial their environment is when navigating their first few years. Those first few years are in a classroom. As a member of the community, it's imperative that we help guide this environment, ensuring that children are exposed to a setting that encourages respect and equality. These values of respect and inclusivity are not political. They are necessary to a modern society. By showcasing these posters around schools, we are teaching our children that all backgrounds, race, gender, or abilities should be respected and treated equally. The point of these posters is to create an environment where students feel seen, heard, valued, and accepted for who they are, as they are. I want to emphasize again that kids' brains are like sponges. They soak up any information they see or hear at home, on the playground, during any activities, and in schools. Their brains are so impressionable, which is why what they are exposed to is so important. During their education, they will learn critical math and science skills, but most importantly, life lessons. These learning environments are what shapes their understanding of the world and eventually their adult life. If you are listening to us high schoolers, the ones that this vote affects, hear us when we say it's not about politics.
30 seconds.
It's about creating an environment for our future generations to value a compassionate and diverse world. By supporting inclusive messages and images, we are teaching our future generations that everyone deserves to be treated equally. Removing these posters sends a message to your students that you are not ready to take affirmative action in promoting inclusivity, equality, and the justice for your students. I urge you.
That's time.
Okay.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never mind. I was going to say, I thought you said not to clap. The next speaker is Lily L.
We're going to do just students, right?
Hello all, my name is Lily Lonsbach and I'm a student at Lakeville South High School. While posting inclusivity signs might seem pointless to many, once you look deeper into the issue, you know that they're instrumental to sites to promoting a respectful environment in our schools. Even in a seemingly respectful place like Lakeville area schools, it is important to remind students to be respectful of all backgrounds, cultures, and identities. We must create a safe space which eliminates bullying and harassment. And while these posters do not eliminate this issue, they bring awareness to the fact that it is still prominent around us. Seeing that people have an issue with these signs and what they are saying is an alarming example that shows how this systematic hate is still prevalent around us today, which is exactly why we need posters that say everyone is welcome. Because backlash is being made towards signs that say all are welcome here. It is a direct example that currently not all feel welcome. On your website, you state that you, quote, believe in fostering a sense of community in every classroom, building, and team. Our school leaders reinforce this shared commitment, end quote. I urge you to continue to reinforce this commitment and to not ban the signs that encourage the very same community that you promise. Saying we value and respect those around us is not political. It is showing a sense of community that Lakeville area schools values. We must encourage supporting those around us regardless of gender, race, sexuality, and religion from a young age. These posters help us do that. It is not political to advertise support for your peers. It is not political to promote unity, but it is hateful to remove signs that are saying that everyone is welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lily.
Scott R. Scott R. Going once, twice.
Yeah.
Is that Scott? Scott, is that you with your hand up?
No, it's.
All right.
All right. Yeah, if Scott R. or Sarah R. comes in, we'll let them speak next.
Okay. Beth M. Going once. Are you Scott? Okay,
Perfect.
very good.
Are we ready?
Go right ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. First, let me thank you for the willingness to hear me speak on a subject I didn't believe would ever have to be entertained by the sheer ridiculousness of this subject matter. As a 10-year Navy veteran, I can tell you point blank, diversity and inclusiveness is one of our greatest strengths. Since they train us to be leaders, where the main message is to stand for those that cannot, I will stand here and I will tell you, I am opposed to this, to remove these posters. The same individuals who support removing these posters are the same ones that gleefully protested Ruby Bridges from being the first black woman to attend a white school. These are the same individuals that were deputized to prevent Martin Luther King from walking across the Edmund Pettus Bridge and gleefully beat him and those that marched with him. We do ourselves no service to entertain this idea. Letting children feel safe and welcome should be the priority of this board, but they decided to make it so a group of people will feel less safe and will less welcome. Do better. Let my final message be this. Trust is a bedrock in which everything is built. How do you, the school board, and those that are in this room, expect anyone to trust you when you will not allow children to be trusted with who they are? Bring your ignorance somewhere else. It is not welcome here.
Oops. Greg A. Greg A.
I didn't think we were doing it.
Is it coming?
Can we draw one in the meantime?
Yeah, let's try another one in the meantime. So we can get to more.
No Greg. They're saying there was no Greg.
No Beth.
Katie G.
Hello, I just want to say thank you to all of you for, working with the community, fighting for our kids. Your job's not easy, especially today, so thank you all. I just want to say that I want to encourage you guys to vote yes to taking down the inclusive signs that bear the phrase Black Lives Matter. I am completely behind the meaning of this. Black Lives Matter, highlight, exclamation mark, hands down, they matter. This is not what this is. Black Lives, though it actually carries. BLM is an activist movement founded by Marxism, the theory and practice of communism.
Right.
These signs were created with the intent to cause division, not unity.
Hey, please be quiet, all right? Everyone else has been respectful for everyone.
Yeah, very much so.
All right.
If we continue to allow these signs to be displayed in our schools, then we need to be inclusive, and add Blue Lives Matter, All Lives Matter. As we are all aware, these phrases have a political foundation to them as well. You cannot hear the phrase Blue Lives Matter without thinking of the riots, or the BLM without thinking of the destruction of Minneapolis in 2020. I'm asking you to stand by your policy 535, stating the school district will remain neutral as to all political campaigns and issues. Please vote yes to taking down these posters and to end the lawsuit and unnecessary spending of the district's finances. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bill G.
Is there a Bill G?
I think he's coming up along the side of the road there.
Thank you for the opportunity. And I had a lot to say, but some folks have covered most of what I was going to say, and I'll try to be very brief to allow some others. I had an Irish grandmother, and she very much taught us all that treat everyone the way you want to be treated. Good advice. I've used that my whole life. I've been around a lot of people, a lot of different countries, 44 different countries. I think everybody's pretty much the same. They want to be able to do what they can for their families. They want to be happy. They want to be left alone to do whatever their cultures include. I think that everybody should be embraced. Everybody should have a welcoming place. I think that at one point the Supreme Court, when they decided about gay marriage, made a statement that everybody is entitled to happiness. I think it's very, very true for everybody, all of us. I can understand that some things may be offensive. I think that you could look at what you want to do. You want to be welcoming to everybody, accepting everybody, and you can do that without being that specific that somebody's going to be offended. And I very much wish you could work on that and come to a settlement that's good for everybody. It's your job, I think, to have everybody know that they should treat everybody else with respect. Something that's short these days, not a lot of that. It's too decisive. To have the respect for others and others' opinions, and to make them welcome. And know that the world is big and has plenty of opportunity for them. Very much I would like educators to do that. Without exception, to respect the rights and humanity of everyone. It's not about politics, it's about basic humanity. And no doubt we're all stronger together. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Cynthia C.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent, the District of 194. I'm a resident of Lakeville and a parent of the district. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of many individuals and families in our community who support my stance on this issue. I'm here tonight to encourage the board to do the right thing by rescinding approval of the inclusive poster series, pull down the district's BLM posters immediately, and follow its own school board policy 535 on politics. Since 2021, the district's BLM posters have been sending the wrong message to our students, staff, and the community. For one, these posters promote the political organization Black Lives Matter, supporting the social justice movement. They're tied to BLM Incorporated, Marxist political and activist group. You can still see today on their website, they're an entity with a political agenda, highlighting candidates for Congress and other political offices. The public schools should not be promoting any political organization or political movement, so please keep politics out of our schools. Secondly, the BLM posters don't affirm students. It's only been alienating the non-Black students, dividing students based color on skin. BLM is a Marxist Black supremacy and racist ideology that's very hostile to the white people and demeaning to Black people. So the posters have been lifting one group who agree with the Marxist ideology while excluding and even demeaning everyone else with different ideological viewpoints. This has created tension in our community, in schools, especially in the secondary level. Individuals in the community and courageous students who verbally don't agree with the BLM ideology have been shunned, sometimes even called racist or bigots. This type of environment has been racially hostile and should never belong in our schools. So please keep racism out of our schools. Lastly, the posters, BLM posters, continue to violate the school's own policy 535 on political campaigns and activities. They should remain neutral and not use funds or resources on political or controversial issues. I ask the board tonight to please enforce policy 535. Do the right thing by rescinding the approval of the inclusive poster series and move the BLM posters immediately. Most importantly, let's get back to focusing on academics to our students, raising the bar for each of them to reach their full potential, no matter what their background or race. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I just call for, I've seen you twice take that down and mix it up. Can you just keep it here when you're drawing names?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tavian S. Tavian S. I believe she's coming right here.
Hi, my name's Tevian Sorensen, and I'm a parent of 2 students at Lake Marion Elementary. I'm here to represent my 8-year-old second grader, who I asked, "You ever seen these posters?" That's all I asked him. He's like, "Oh yeah, Mom, there's one right across the door from my classroom. I see it every day when I walk out of my class." And I said, "What do you think about it? What does that tell you?" And he goes, "Do you know what that means, Mom? That means that it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, it matters what you're like on the inside." And I was like, "Boy, that's really smart, buddy." I go, "Do you ever think about it when you're in school? What do you look at it?" And he goes, "Yeah, we have kids in our school that bully each other, and it gives me words to use." This is an 8-year-old that recognizes the value of these. We're talking about not a black child. I mean, this is my little white boy, and he loves these. And he thinks having them throughout the school is very helpful to him to stand up for himself, to stand up for other kids in his class, and to remind him that everybody is important. And I want to remind you that we're having these conversations after my children have spent about 2 or 3 weeks in school learning every single day about the history of our country. Martin Luther King, Ruby Bridges, they came home every single day and told me about what they learned and what it meant, and they were mortified about our history. And to them, they cannot understand why we don't need these reminders, why this is unimportant. They're going to be distraught if you take these out. I think it is a significant tool, not just to kids that are in a minority, but everybody that goes to school there. Thank you.
Thank you, Tevian.
Got like 6 minutes.
6 minutes?
2 more?
2 more? All right. Laney Q. Laney Q. Okay, going.
We'll hold her spot, but we'll call one more.
Are we good? All right. Allison K. Allison K. No?
Someone's coming.
She here?
Laney Q.
Laney Q.
Laney Q's here?
And if Allison K is out there, she can make her way in too.
Sure.
Can you check for Allison K as well? Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lainey Cuentes. I'm a 10th grader at Lakeville South High School, and I'm Latina. The inclusivity posters in our school serve a purpose. They let me and everyone like me and everyone who is not like me know that they're welcome in the school. It says that everyone has value. Everyone matters here. The school needs to make sure that message gets through. The posters serve as a reminder. There is a lot of bullying in our schools. Bullies like to pick on those who are different from themselves. These posters say that everyone, no matter their race, gender, disability, or belief, belongs here, and that helps fight bullying. It says differences are good, and we should celebrate each other and not put each other down or divide us. We really are stronger together. I, for one, want to go to a school that wants me there, that it wants to include me. Please stand up for us. Keep those posters.
Thank you, Lenny.
Is the other?
No, Allison?
So this will be the last one.
Okay.
I'm getting there's no Allison K.
It's no
No.
Allison K.
No, I don't think she's here. Okay. Forgive me, I may mispronounce this. Anish B.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Ansh Bhatia, and I'm an 8th grader at Century Middle School. And I stand before you today to address an issue of much discussion and debate throughout the community in the past, I would say, week or so. And it's regarding the issue of taking down these posters. And I believe that you should keep up these posters in our school because it makes children feel like they're included. It makes them feel like they can go into a classroom where they feel like they belong. And for these children, school becomes almost a sort of second home for them in a way. So if they aren't feeling like they're represented accurately and respected in that second home almost aspect for them, then I feel like it's not a good environment for them to be learning in if they feel like they're necessarily ostracized in a place of learning and in a place of safety for them within our district. And we as a district should pride ourselves on being an inclusive district, and we shouldn't strive to be a district that necessarily tries to or does things that may make students feel like they're ostracized from the community. We want students to feel like they really belong, and it helps to create a really cohesive community and make sure everyone feels like they fit in, make sure everybody is kind and inclusive to others. And I urge you to consider the impact that the removal of these might have on our students, as a lot of people have previously stated. I'm sure a lot of us in this room can agree that it is the job of the school board to be the people helping shape the future of these newer Lakeville generations. And it's imperative to avoid actions that can undermine the integrity of the basis of education in Lakeville and possibly have a ripple on the entirety of Minnesota. So please stand together to affirm that inclusion in our school district is not a privilege, but a right to all the students. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody that was willing to come up here and speak today. It's not easy. Especially want to thank our students. They did an amazing job. I also want to thank those that emailed the board members and shared their thoughts. We do really appreciate that, and we will read them, even if you send multiple ones. Even if we don't agree with you, we appreciate the emails. So keep them coming. Before we get into the discussion that I'm assuming most of you have come here to hear today, I wanted to provide some context that I think is sorely missing from what has been conveyed to the majority of the public so far, and which has really led to some of the comments and sentiments that have been expressed here today. Context in this case helps provide an understanding of what this discussion truly is and what it is not. Contrary to how this may seem, this issue did not arise simply because Superintendent Baumann and I decided to put the matter on the agenda for a discussion and vote this week. The timing, unfortunately, coincides with certain actions taken by our federal government lately, but I assure you they are not related. For those that have not followed the school board meetings in the district for the number of years, the school has been engaged in litigation over this inclusive series posters for over 3 years now. The posters themselves were put up at a time when none of the current board members were part of the Lakeville School Board, and the decision was made at a very unique time for our state and our nation. There are a number of issues and challenges that have been raised to the manner in which the poster series were approved or arguably not officially approved, and that has only contributed to the dispute concerning the series. Shortly after the inclusive series posters were displayed in our schools, there was a request by a parent to allow for the posting of an additional viewpoint to be displayed along with the new posters. That request was denied, and a legal challenge to the posters ensued. While the district was initially successful in a motion to dismiss the case at the trial court, the case was appealed and made its way to the United States Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is just one step away from the U.S. Supreme Court. The Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, which revived the case. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend that you read the Eighth Circuit decision in Cajun versus Independent School District 194. You can Google the case, and a copy of the case is available online for free. Anybody can download it and read it. The court's decision in that case is very informative on the background facts and the legal issues that our school district is confronting in that litigation. One of which is whether or not in approving and displaying the inclusive series posters, the district in essence has opened its walls to all views, not just those sought to be conveyed by the district. Once again, I recommend that you read the decision for a fuller understanding of the legal issues that are at play, because it's not as simple as some may have put it out to be. This board was briefed by our legal counsel on the status of the pending litigation just 2 weeks ago in a closed session. The briefing was required because the case is still in process and decisions have to be made. Some of the pre-existing members of this board had a very similar briefing and discussion with legal counsel last year in a closed session. So once again, while it may seem to the public like this issue is coming out of nowhere, I can assure you it's not. It's been an issue that the board has been dealing with for a while now. Unfortunately, the rules of a closed session do not allow the board to take a vote on, well, I take that back. Fortunately, the rules of a closed session don't allow the board to take a vote on board matters in closed session. So that is why this issue is being pulled out of the closed session and the issue is being brought in the public so we can vote and discuss it in front of everybody here today. In light of the pending litigation and the number of varying viewpoints expressed through the emails that we have received, and now the media attention that this case or this matter has drawn, it would be difficult to argue that the poster series are not a point of controversy within our district, whether socially or politically driven, and unfortunately the line between the two is becoming increasingly blurry. This board's agreement or disagreement as to whether or not it is time to shift to a new focus or chapter for the district is not a decision that is taken lightly and should not be construed as an indication that any board member does not value each and every child in our schools. Any such claim is just ridiculous. No vote of this board will change the fact that every student that walks into our schools is valued, regardless of their race, religion, socioeconomic status, sexual preference, gender, identity, disability, or immigration status. The presence or absence of posters on the wall does not change that fact. And this vote does not mean that every one of the students is not deserving of respect and equal treatment, and we demand as much from our students and staff in the Lakeville School District. If our schools require a poster series to make students feel welcome, we really may have a bigger issue on our hands that we need to address. Shifting over to my personal thoughts on this discussion, I view this discussion and this vote as an opportunity for a fresh start for the district and a shift to an academics first focus in our schools. This vote is also an opportunity to take a position of aggressive neutrality as to all things political and controversial that we display within our schools. Our schools do not have to be the battleground for every hot political and social issue, and those two are becoming more and more synonymous in our divisive culture. We have a big enough task as a school district in educating our youth, and we cannot be distracted from our primary focus of improving educational outcomes by exposing our district to further legal battles. Now, I know my fellow board members have more to say on this matter, so I'm going to get our discussion rolling. What you don't know, we took a straw poll during our closed session, in essence, to remove the posters from the district walls. In order to move that issue to this meeting, I will make the motion. If there is a second, the matter will be discussed and deliberated by the board. Once again, I would appreciate it if everyone would refrain from interrupting the board while we are deliberating and ultimately having a vote on that matter. So I will start things off. I move to have the Inclusive Series posters removed from all district property. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been seconded by Director Carbone. I'm going to open the floor for discussion on the matter. Director Baker.
I have a hard time speaking in front of public. I have social anxiety, so if you'll bear with me, I did write down a few thoughts that I wanted to get out. I have a very personal connection to inclusion within this district, and I do not want my children to be a political device in this debate. I'm using it as a talking point just to share my experience as a parent. We moved to Lakeville in the spring of 2012. At the time, my oldest son was in second grade and had an IEP for autism. After a week of starting at our neighborhood school in Lakeville, his desk was moved outside the classroom in the hallway. I questioned his teacher, and the response I received was, she felt that some of the humming noises he made were disruptive to herself when she was teaching. His classroom time, when he was supposed to be with his peers, was spent in the hallway working one-on-one with a para, not with his peers. I was hurt, angry, and as an educator, disappointed in the lack of understanding of autism. The following school year, my son was moved to another school in Lakeville to receive support through a program that focused on autism. I met another parent who invited me to the district's Special Education Advisory Council. The council was focused on developing inclusive practices in Lakeville schools. It felt great to work with parents and district staff to help support inclusion in the district. Through the council, Lakeville was one of the first districts in the state of Minnesota to celebrate Inclusive Schools Week, an annual celebration. The governor, recognizing our work as a district, also started to make a proclamation for Inclusive Schools Week, and as years went on, several districts surrounding us started to do it as well. As part of Inclusive Schools Week, the council established the Inclusion Awards in 2014 to honor staff, students, and community members who promote inclusion. These annual awards honored all levels of inclusion, and just to include a few teachers and staff that we have recognized, teachers who support adult education, bus drivers who create a welcoming environment, students who are teaching other students with disabilities music, and staff who work in nutrition and welcome all students, just to name a few. The council recognized that parents needed more support through the special education process and started a program called the Special Education Parent Liaison Program, another first-of-its-kind program in the state of Minnesota. The program would provide support to families and teachers through the IEP process by a parent of a child with a disability. As part of this program, the Family Connection Support Group was formed through district support and led by the Special Education Parent Liaisons. This support group provided parent education and a place to connect with other families of students with disabilities. The council continued to grow and find other ways to support inclusion within our schools and became one of the most active councils in the state of Minnesota. Within the past few years, I witnessed the momentum we had gained as a district with inclusion starting to slip away. This included reduction of the Special Education Advisory Council for monthly meetings to 3 times a year, discontinuation of the Special Education Parent Liaison Program. I know this because I was the last parent liaison. I stepped down when I became a board member and my position was never filled. Discontinuation of the district support of the parent support group Family Connections. The parents have made it a PTO to try to save that connection. Discontinuation of the celebration of Inclusive Schools Week. Discontinuation of district support of the Inclusion Awards. Again, the PTO is trying to keep this going on their own. Discontinuation of honoring our staff. Did anyone know it was Para Recognition Week last week? Nope. What happened to the recognition we used to give our various departments? I do applaud the recent efforts to recognize staff and students of the month, but we also could celebrate the work that our staff are doing every day in the individual departments. Also, the discontinuation of monthly recognition at board meetings of the amazing work that happens within our buildings. There was a time when principals used to come to the board and present on the different things that are happening in their buildings, and it was amazing to hear about the work that was happening. I share this from my perspective as a parent of children with disabilities. Many of these items do not have dollars attached to them. Words mean nothing without the action and intent behind them. We have forgotten what the true meaning of inclusion is, the heart of the work. Inclusion is how we treat one another. It is the golden rule that we learned in kindergarten. Treat others how you want to be treated. It has always been my goal to work with the district, to educate, to advocate, and to make things better for the future. It is the reason that I joined the Special Education Advisory Council, became a parent liaison, participated in Family Connections, and ran for school board. We can't just put up a poster without doing the work. I would like to see a goal with initiatives and action items, along with discussion groups within our community and how to move forward the work of inclusion within our district. I also would like to see us come up with our own message around this work and pictures of our students to support the message. However we move the idea forward, the one thing is for sure, we need to do this work together.
Director Carbone.
Yeah, thank you. The chair said that we want safe schools for all, and he's absolutely correct. It's the vehicle that's being used here, and that's what this discussion is about. In the classrooms, teachers accept, they nurture, they cultivate the individual. and they do a really good job from everything I've seen. Let's see the individual through character and through ability, and not through socially constructed groups. Expect respect. No bullying or harassment of anyone for any reason. I go back to what Director Baker just said. There's a golden rule. Treat others as you expect to be treated. That has no social construction. It goes across all humanity. And that's the way we need to look at this. I also have to say, the board should remain neutral on political ideology. We shouldn't advocate one side or the other.
Please.
And schools really need to focus on academic achievement and not political social stances. Thank you.
Director Cameron.
Thank you. I want to echo Chair Swanson and thanking students for participating tonight. It's great to hear from students in our school district. I wish I had your public speaking skills, like this 8th grader here, amazing. That being said, like Director Baker and others, I wrote some comments about my thoughts tonight, just to make sure I stayed on track and was focused. So bear with me as I kind of share these with you. Our discussion tonight provides me an opportunity to communicate to my colleagues on the board and the larger community about how I go about making decisions for our entire 194 community. In the short time that we've been aboard, we've had already articulated the importance of keeping students at the forefront of our decisions, working to ensure that we create a learning environment within our schools that supports the academic achievement of all students. So I agree with you, Paul. We have had an overwhelming response from students, parents, community members, recent alumni, and educators in 194 discussing how this poster series creates an environment that fosters that student success. We've also heard from a smaller group of community members who suggest that the posters are distracting from academic outcomes. I think it is important to separate feelings and political orientation from this conversation. Rather, our district, including this board, should be making decisions rooted in scientific evidence. So what does the research say about this issue, and how might posters contribute to academic success? A National Science Foundation research study out of the University of Washington has important implications for our discussion tonight. The results of the study were published in the Journal of Policy Insights from the Behavioral and Brain Sciences, which is a journal aimed to share scientific research on relevant topics to help policymakers, like us, create sound policies on a variety of topics. The article, titled Designing Classrooms to Maximize Student Achievement, is divided into 2 sections. The first half of the article discusses how a student's structural facilities have a profound influence on learning. I'm incredibly grateful to the Lakeville community for supporting quality school facilities in ISD 194. The second half of the article is focused on, quote, the unexpected importance of a classroom's symbolic features, such as wall decor, in influencing student learning and achievement. This study has been cited more than 400 times in further research, a clear indication of this study's rigor. The study abstract states that, quote, symbols inform students whether they are valued learners and belong within the classroom, with far-reaching consequences for students' educational choices and achievement. The research notes that symbolic features, such as the posters we're discussing tonight, are far from trivial and powerfully influence student performance. This is true for all students, but especially true for underrepresented students. The research notes that such displays affect students from historically underrepresented populations in subtle but yet important ways. For example, in one of the studies cited in the research article, female students completed an assessment in a male teacher's classroom who they thought would be evaluating them. When the room contained objects that did not signal anything positive about the teacher's attitude towards female students who had prior concerns or experience with gender prejudice performed worse on the assessment than students without this concern. when the same assessment was completed in the classroom with objects that signaled the teacher's positive attitudes towards these female students, the performance gap was eliminated. The article goes on to discuss that the objects and the decor of a classroom must be considered, of course, like we all know, with the context of a set of larger factors that promote educational attainment, such as curriculum development and teacher training. However, the research is clear that a plethora of evidence suggests that teachers and staff are able to modify classrooms relatively easily, such as hanging one of our 194 inclusion posters, and in doing so improve learning outcomes for students and help reduce racial and gender achievement gaps. As a member of this board elected by our community to support our students, I will base my decision tonight on community input and scholarly research. In this case, regarding the inclusive poster series, the results are clear. In addition to broad community support of the posters, especially from our students, parents, and educators, scholarly research concludes that such posters are an effective tool in improving student achievement and reducing identity-based achievement gaps. I will have more discussion tonight, but I am firm that I refuse to remove a tool from our educators and from our students that is proven to support their outcomes. We have heard from so many students through emails and tonight, and also from young alumni, nothing but the positive influence these posters have had on their 194 experience, and more importantly, their educational success.
You want?
Anybody's up? Brett?
So looking at this issue, I've had a lot of time to talk with a number of folks, read all your emails. I appreciate it. I understand, I think, where everybody's coming from. The problem I have is that, again, there's a legal suit. There is summary judgment that came down from that decision. There's even MSBA, which is the Minnesota School Board Association, training slides that provided a recap of the appeal and the implications to school districts. Without going into a ton of detail on it, the Minnesota School Board Association training slides basically describe the situation here in regards to free speech in schools. As I read it, pretty clearly suggests or implies a limited public forum was created and viewpoint discrimination occurred, which I believe this is actually in the hands of the courts, so I don't know how they say that. However, what it does clearly say is that it's a warning to all the school districts to be very careful that you're not creating these situations. Maintain political neutrality and do not engage in viewpoint discrimination. I just want to say I don't like this. I don't like the divide. I think we're all better than this, all of us. And I think a lot of this is driven from adults. This isn't the kids at all. Nothing. The kids didn't do it. With that said, I would love to see us move forward in a new way. Have an inclusive series, tie in academics, have the students create it, bring it to the administration, bring it to Mr. Bauman. I understand, and I will even go through it with you. So I don't have any issue with your poster that you're holding up. I'll address it. I have no problem with it. I agree.
Please don't interrupt, all right? Hey, please don't interrupt.
I understand.
All right.
I agree. Everyone is welcome. Everyone. And as long as we are doing what we can to avoid any sort of conflict there, I think that is the type of thing we need to do. You want to use some of the same language? I will support that. I have a problem with the stuff that has gotten us into a lawsuit, that has divided the company, or this entire group here. I mean, it's divided the community. It's divided everybody. How do we move forward? Say we take them down. You got at least 50% of the people here who are going to lose it and be really mad at everybody. Say you leave them up. You got another 50% that is not going to be very happy with this decision.
Everybody, please keep it down.
The community is complicated. We don't have like a complete majority either way. So like, how do we move forward together? I mean, I honestly asked all of you this. How do we move forward in a way that isn't going to be divisive, that isn't going to split everything up? Why can we not create a new outcome for this? Like, I honestly, I seriously, what can we do?
Sir,
Chair.
please, no.
Chair.
Sir, please. If you interrupt, we're going to have you removed, okay? All right.
Director Nicholson, I just want to take a moment to respond to your request. I don't think it's the message on the posters. Obviously, there's litigation that's around this specific poster series. A lot of that has to do with the process and procedure that was used to approve and post this across the district. I look at it as I want more than posters, which is exactly what I stated. I want initiatives and action items. I want us to talk about this and say these are the things that we're actually going to do, because inclusion is nothing unless we do something. I hear from students that say that that they don't feel safe in our environments. I want more for them than a poster. I love the posters. I like the posters, but I want action items on things that we're going to do to make sure that students do feel safe. Like, what can we do to further this work besides just a poster? Like, I don't want to just check a box on this. Like, I think that we have an opportunity to build something in our district. And as I stated, like, the things that we have done in the past, we were the first district in the state to do those things. We were the leader. And that work has stopped for whatever reason. I want to see us be the leader again. I want to see us develop something that everybody says, oh my gosh, Lakeville Schools got it right. Like, we know what we need to do here. Inclusion is everything. It is everything. It's everything that we do. It's how we treat people. So obviously we're not treating our people very well. So what are we going to do about that? That's what I want to do.
Director Thompson.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone here, and we received a lot of emails for, against, and that tells me again back to what you said, Director Nicholson, that this is a topic that's of concern for many folks. But as I read some notes and I did some research too as well, we need to get to the position where our school district, our school board, is able to deliver on our core mission. And that core mission is preparing students to succeed academically and equipping them to be with the skills to thrive in this environment. I will say that when our core mission is reading, writing, math, and science, how are we doing? And since 2001 until now, while the MCA's metrics may be various ways of interpreting it, but as of now, it is the only metric that we can use across the state that tells your district if you're doing well or if you're not doing well. So the data here shares that in 2001, our math scores were 55.4%, and now it's 53. Our reading scores were at 70.3%, and now it's at 61.4. And our science scores were at 56.9% in 2001, and now they're at 48. So there's a decline in our metrics over the past 3 years. So if other syllables or symbols or whatever it may be elevate metrics, I'm not seeing it in the data. When I compare our district to other districts like Wayzata has a math score of 75. Wayzata has a math score of 75.4%. Edina has a math score of 71.7%, and Lakeville sitting at 53. Our reading score, Wayzata's at 72.8%, and their reading score, Edina's at 75.4%, and our reading skills are at 61.4. And so
Can you guys
our
show some
science
respect,
scores,
please?
Wayzata is at 61.4%, Edina is at 66, and we're sitting at 48. And so whether it be funding, whether it be staffing, whether it be curriculum, we've got to get back to the core mission of improving academics. And so I'll share this last statement here. It's just a story. It's relevant for me because if your student walks into school and they're unable to read at grade level, they see posters on the walls promoting inclusiveness, but they'll feel excluded from academic success because they're not there, because they lack the skills to probably catch up. And I can tell you that because I've got kids in the schools, and they're not at the level that they ought to be at times. And so does a student, when they see a poster, do they feel valued? I don't know. They need it, but I will share with you that what makes them successful and what makes them feel valued are the teachers that were there, that help them get to exceed, to give them the extra minute, the extra time, as well as the district making it a focus that academics is our core mission. And so if we prioritize that, we help every student feel confident and because they've got the competence and the skills to be at the level that they need to be. Now, with what Director Baker said, I would agree that we do need to take action. And while these signs that we've had that none of us on the board were involved in, 2 boards ago or 3 years ago, except for you, we need to make sure that are we going to set our district to be able to scale for growth, have the right campaign, the right messaging, and the right objectives as we move forward. And while there's a lot of controversy, let me rephrase it, there's a lot of opinions and input on this topic, tells us that is this a topic we should be talking about when our math scores, reading scores, and science scores are where they're at? But more importantly, last week, we had a 2-hour session around teaching and learning about assessments and how academics impact and how they operate in our school. And we had 7 participants here watching, 7 stakeholders on that very important topic. So, thanks.
Director Cameron.
Thanks, Director Thompson, for those comments, and Chair Baker, your former chair, Director Baker as well, and Director Nicholson. I agree that this is part of a larger strategy. This is, for me, it's a both and conversation, not an either or. Tonight's a discussion about these 8 posters, and I'm not saying we can't discuss other things, of course, but I think to stay focused on the goal of the vote. And Director Thompson, I know that there's conversation around like our MCA is like the best way to evaluate performance, right? But it is one way, right, that we can look at metrics. And I looked at that too. And I think it's important to drill down in the data, right? Like it's like to have these overall numbers is important. And I agree that all schools, including Lakeville, need to be doing better. That being said, like if you look at our math scores over the last 3 years, when I looked at the MCAs last night, our Black students are doing 10% better than they were 3 years ago. Our Native students are doing 7% better, and our Asian students are doing 8% better. So I'm not saying that there is a direct correlation or a causation between these posters and their performance. But what I am saying is that the research says that this that wall objects, symbolic objects on walls, have an impact on student success, and we are seeing improvement, especially in our underrepresented students' academic performance on the MCAs.
Thank you. Director Anderson.
All right. I want to thank all of you who came here tonight to use your voice and advocate for what you think is best for the students and staff of our district. I also want to thank all of you who took time to email the board. That was very overwhelming this week. I didn't actually make a count, but I'm guessing we received, close to 200 emails?
Close, yeah.
So, what? 300. Mm-hmm. Okay, way to go, everyone. You have participated. And it takes courage to do this, and it is important for our board to hear your perspective. And gosh, our students, you are so impressive, and way to go. When I became a school board member, I very quickly realized that the decisions that I make have a broad impact and must be grounded in what is best for the students of our district. I cannot make a decision based solely on my personal beliefs or what will work out best for my family or my neighbors. This came up during the boundary adjustments, trust me. I have to consider what is best for all. The vision of our district is to provide a safe, respectful, engaging, rigorous, and collaborative learning environment for all students, families, and staff, where every person belongs, is valued, and can succeed. I was elected by this community to help fulfill that vision. As a neuropsychologist, I have expertise in both brain development and functioning, as well as mental health. I know what it means to critically analyze the peer-reviewed literature to determine evidence-based practices in education. There is considerable evidence in the educational literature to show that student factors, teacher characteristics, and environmental factors all matter when it comes to student outcomes. It is very similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, whereby our basic needs must first be met before we can succeed at higher levels. For students in our schools, we can optimize their performance by reducing or eliminating factors such as hunger and safety threats that serve to distract their brains from learning. There are many things that matter as we work to create a safe and supportive school environment. Representation matters. Consider the importance of girls seeing women succeed in the fields of science and math. Currently in our district, our students are far more diverse in their backgrounds than our staff, which can contribute to lower achievement when students do not see themselves in their educator role models. This is something we need to work on, and it is part of our A&I plan, and unfortunately, we haven't seen these numbers move in the direction we want them to. Removing these posters will not help us recruit or retain more diverse staff to help build representation for all. Creating an inclusive environment matters. If we look at the evidence base, what is put on the classroom walls matters, as Amber has very astutely pointed out. Posters don't make relationships, but they serve as a signal to students that classrooms are safe and welcoming and open the door for those relationships to flourish. Removing them will send a message to many that the leaders of this district at the highest level do not value the importance of an inclusive environment. Ensuring safety matters. Our district has spent millions of dollars on the most advanced security system. Mr. Baumann, you were a big part of that, to prioritize the physical safety of our staff and students. In reality, our students are far more likely to face bullying, discrimination, and harassment in our schools than they are a school shooting. We must therefore also prioritize their mental and emotional safety. These posters communicate safety for all students, especially those who have experienced bullying or harassment related to an aspect of their identity. Removal of these posters may send a message that we do not value all of the unique identities that our students and staff bring to the school environment to enhance the learning experience for all. If I am forced to vote on this issue tonight, it is obvious that I will vote to maintain the inclusive poster series in our buildings. However, I would like to challenge our board to consider our process that led to us having this vote on the agenda tonight. There have been many times that Director Thompson has advocated for, and I have supported, a multi-step process. Did you want to say? I'm kidding. A multi-step process where we are introduced to a topic, we then have time to research this information and allow for stakeholder input. We then discuss the topic again, and then we vote. We have not followed this process in any way. As a board, we have yet to determine whether any of these posters violate school policy. Until we establish a violation of policy, I'm not sure this should be on the agenda, as it is not a board issue. It is public knowledge that we have an active lawsuit in the district. As of yesterday, it is also public knowledge that the lawyer representing the plaintiffs has said that our removal of the posters will not impact the case. I do not know of any formal complaints from students or teachers about these posters. Therefore, we are potentially causing unwarranted and unnecessary harm by removing the posters without clear purpose. We have not discussed this publicly as a board and allowed ample time for community input to inform our decision-making. If we were going by emails alone, these 300 emails that we received, the overwhelming majority, I would say more than 90%, I didn't count, but I could go back, recommend keeping the posters up. However, there may be a selection bias at play. We may not have all the information when the data is not being collected anonymously. As I said earlier, it takes courage to email our board, and we might not be hearing from all. I'm open to further discussion, but my plan tonight is to make a motion to table the vote on this issue to a later date. Doing so will allow time for our district and school board to become more educated on the matter and to gather survey data to understand the views of our students, staff, and community members to more fully inform our vote. Thank you. So I could formally make that motion at this time, but I also appreciate when you make such a motion, it ends discussion. And so I do want to make sure I can wait and allow for additional discussion.
Yeah, I'll jump back in now that everyone's had a chance to speak. I think it's a misreading of the case if you don't think that the Eighth Circuit decision is a problem for our school district right now. And the question of whether or not we gave up the right to control what's on our walls, which I think is important, because we're essentially saying we've opened it up. It's a limited public forum, as the Eighth Circuit said. To Brett's comment, though, I think we can do better. I mean, I think we could rerun this, essentially. We could agree that, hey, there are legal issues that we need to take care of with the way that these posters were approved and adopted by the district and displayed, and then come back, because I don't think come back with a new series, which would probably come up pretty quickly, I'm guessing. Come back with a new series that not only addresses in its adoption, we would address the legal issues that are currently plaguing the inclusive series we have right now, but then as a board commit to adopt a policy that prevents us from being in this legal situation again. And then we come up with a new series that is not only viewpoint neutral, focused on education, but it can also include statements like, we are better together, everyone is welcome, you matter. I mean, those are viewpoint neutral statements. So again, why not move on just as a point of trying to work together as a board? If there's value here, which I hear you saying that there is statistical value here showing that it can help improve. Well, we can do that. We can do it in a way that doesn't subject us to legal challenge moving forward as well, satisfy some of the requests of our constituents, and also provide that resource to the children. So that would be my proposal.
You got one over there.
I'm just going to say, I don't have any problem with 6 of the posters. I mean, essentially, it's very hard to argue with the statements. The statements are very strong, they're inclusive, and I fully support that. That's it.
Mr. Chair.
Director Thompson.
Well, I like the idea of having an action plan. And so the things that you've shared earlier make sense, because when we make any decision, what are we going to do? And this is a new board. It is a new direction. It could be something that we can pivot. And I appreciate an excellence campaign or something of that nature, where we have pictures of our students on our walls. We have pictures of them excelling at STEM, excelling in art, excelling in theater, sports, whatever it may be. And so, I'll make it I'll make it before I make an emotion. Yeah, all right. I don't want to override your motion, but I do want to amend in the initial motion where we commit to a new campaign, a new excellence campaign, where we focus on the academics and making sure that we can get our students where they need to be. So,
are you making a motion?
No.
No, because I think there was a motion ahead of.
Are you making a motion to amend the motion?
Yes.
All right, and just so I'm clear, is your motion to amend to say we will, 1, take down, and 2, move on to a new series?
Yes.
All right. Is there a second for that motion? I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Wait, I
we're
think you had
saying
any discussion.
Oh, sorry. And this is just a motion to amend the motion.
Yes.
So, discussion on the topic? Carly.
I I think my concern is we've invested considerable taxpayer dollars in the series that we have. And the series that we have, and Mr. Baumann, you could speak more to what actually happened, but my understanding is that different groups of people came together to create this series. So it wasn't just done in isolation. It was students' involvement. I believe some people from EML and district leadership was involved. And so I feel like we've done that. And it would be, one, again, I maybe I didn't say this earlier. I worry about the harm we do by taking them down. Whether or not people really, a lot of people don't watch our meetings. I know this is probably one more people will watch, but kids don't see this. They don't, especially little kids, they don't know why these posters are coming down. I asked my son, he's 8, honey, have you seen these posters at school? He's like, yeah. I was like, do you like them? He's like, yeah. I said, why? I don't know. He doesn't have the words to exactly say and articulate it, but he sees them as positive. And they come down and they can cause damage. So to me, we don't take them down and do something different because we've already had a very thorough process. You can argue that 2 of the signs, people see them as more political, but 6 of them, everybody on this board agrees probably are not political. And so why would we scratch all of those? I feel like we've invested the money. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars to do something different when it was a comprehensive process to start with. And Mr. Baumann, I don't know if you want to speak to any of that, but.
I would love an opportunity to say something here in all of this. And as I've been listening to the comments, the actual fact is I was here as part of that process. And the process and procedure and the responsibility of the board in that, I think, was not done with fidelity. And I would hope that we would do whatever needs to be done with fidelity. And so I think Director Nicholson and others have offered a couple things. I think there's a couple of motions and amendments, and I would ask the board to at least consider this as I've listened to the conversation, and I'm hoping I can prevail upon you to consider this process to deal directly with the situation that's at hand here. And I acknowledge that all of you sitting on the board were not here, but you have to take responsibility for where you're at. I take responsibility for where we're at. And I want to just say, as I look at this, my recommendation, my counsel would be that first and foremost, we deal with the Policy 535 issue, and that we leave all the other posters in place for now, and that for all the reasons that have been articulated here, and everybody has, I think, said some profound and important things, and I don't want to diminish anybody's opinion on that matter. I counted 314 emails. I've read them all, but that's not every opinion in Lakeville. But it's important that you took the time to do that, and I personally appreciate that. And I think then we take the time to refine and define displays and policy, and if we want to introduce a new series, that it's done by stakeholders, and that we put our faith in our students and our teachers and our families to help us with that process, because we're a community, and we have to be a united community around these things. I think we should put our hope in our community, the whole community. And I think that we should have charity for all. It's about faith, hope, and charity in each other. And I've heard those comments consistently throughout this. And if we could get to that and we could put a motion to that, it would allow administration to do its job and to continue to march forward, and I can see an opportunity to expand and refine our message based on a codified and refined policy that is the governance role of the school board. Those are what I would like, that is what I would like to see happen.
All right. Thank you, Superintendent Baumann. We still have discussion on Director Thompson's motion. Anyone else have any comments? Director Anderson?
I'm wondering, I do want to make a motion to table this. And as my understanding, anything that, I actually wrote it down because I wanted to remember correctly, that any motion that defers or eliminates a related action is of higher precedence. And so I do want to table this with the hopes of gathering survey data from our community. You know, as everybody is pointing out here, we may not have full representation of our community. I think what we have heard 100% from our students is how important these posters are. And I would prefer to table this until a later date and give our administration time to collect some data from our community so that we can be more informed. So that would be, I would motion to table this.
Is there a second?
Can I make an amendment on your motion?
Wow, we're getting tricky here.
So I heard what Superintendent Bauman said, and Director Anderson, you made mention of it as well, that we haven't even decided if the posters violate policy because we haven't discussed the policy. So if we're going to table the motion or the topic, then I would amend your motion to say we're going to table it and then discuss policy 535. Sorry.
Any related policy.
And any related policy.
All right. Is there a second on the amendment to the motion to table?
I second.
Point of information. What's the difference? What's the difference between a motion to table versus motion to postpone? Because I don't know. Are they the same thing?
Yeah, it'd be the same thing.
Okay.
I second.
All right. Any discussion? Well, actually, on the motion to amend the motion to table. Any discussion? All right. All in favor of the motion to amend the motion to table? Say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign?
Nay.
Nay. Director
Need a
Nicholson?
Clarify, so this is the motion to amend the original motion.
No, this is the motion to amend the motion to table.
So
So it's amendment to the motion to
discussing
table.
policy related to these posters.
To discuss the policy.
So it would be,
Related.
correct, it'd be part of the motion, it'd become part of the motion to table the discussion to a later date.
So if we table it, we have to discuss the policies.
At a later date.
Yes.
If we don't do that, then we're voting tonight, or what are we doing?
Well, then we'd vote on the motion to table.
Then we vote on the motion to table.
Correct.
And then if that was, if
And then
that was a
we'd-
nay, then we
and
would
if
go back
that's
to the
nay,
original.
then we vote on the amended motion, or the motion to amend the original motion.
I'm so glad I'm not chair.
Nay.
All right, so now we're back to the motion to table. Is there a second on the motion to table? I believe we had one, actually. Did Director Cameron second the motion to
I
table?
think so, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Any discussion on the motion to table?
I would only be in favor to, if we're tabling the motion, if we actually discuss the policies related to that, because that would be the only reason to table this right now, because we don't have enough information, and we need to discuss the policies related to it.
Yeah, and again, I'm a little confused on that, just because if the question is, do we have an issue with 535, I mean, that is addressed in the Eighth Circuit's decision. I mean, they've already essentially said that we violated our own policy.
I don't
So I'm
really
not sure
think
what
they
we'd be
said
be
that.
discussing. So, Director Nicholson.
So can we make a motion to follow Superintendent Bauman's recommendation? Can we make a motion to follow Superintendent Bauman's direction.
Well, that's what I was doing. Like, he had said that we needed to discuss the policy because that's the purview of the board.
Well, just to clarify, I wasn't suggesting that we clarify the policy. I think the Eighth Circuit said what it is. I'm offering a pathway ahead where we, again,
Discuss it.
we move forward with the conversation that I think we've had here about leaving the posters that are not in question with 535 in place, that we work, because I've heard this a couple of times, we don't live in a static world, we live in a dynamic world. We can improve our messaging if we have a codified policy, whether that's 535 or that is a display policy. You all, as the governing entity of this school district, I think need to do that with fidelity, and we can work with our students, our teachers, our families, our community to improve, refine, expand our message.
Yes. Can I make a motion to follow that?
You cannot. No, not yet.
Not yet.
So,
It's
and-
got to go. It's got to go backwards.
All right. So we're back to the motion to table. Director Anderson.
Yeah, I know we can't disclose information discussed in closed session, but, and I don't know if everybody knows when we're talking about Eighth Circuit and all of that, what that really means. But my understanding about the decision was that basically, earlier, the lower level district court dismissed the case without any, without seeing it. And so then it was appealed to the Eighth Circuit, and the Eighth Circuit said it should be seen. And so I'm not under the impression that it's clear interpretation of violation of policy. More so, we have to now, if we're going to continue, go through the route of discovery and all of that gathering of information, depositions, those kinds of things. So I am not under the impression, based on information available to me, that this is a sunk deal. So I want to be very careful about how we present that, because this sounds like it's driving a lot of decision-making, and I don't know how accurate that representation is of what has been presented to us. So,
Point
Director
of
Carbone.
Yeah, point of clarification, please. I want to go back to Director Thompson, and my understanding was to go forward with a vote today to clean the slate, if you will, and to look at this with a fresh start, to focus on academics, and also to have inclusivity. Be careful with that word, but that kids are welcome in the school, in the classrooms, and so forth, okay? Now, please help me understand where we got from there to tabling all this, when, in fact, I thought Director Thompson had a motion, and I thought we were moving forward with that. And now this is all getting convoluted, and I'm a little, I'd need some clarification on this, please.
So the motion to table does take precedent as far as being answered by the board. So we do need to vote on that. And if it's approved, we don't move any further on this issue. If it's not approved by the board, then we move back for discussion on Director Thompson's motion to amend the original motion.
Okay.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the motion to table?
I just want to say, I'm not motioning to table to make this go away. I just think it is very clear that there has been a swell of community response to this, and I want to make sure that we hear from our entire community about this to make a decision that connects with the value. I've heard many of you talk about community values, and when we have every single teacher and every single student telling us to keep these signs up, I did not see one single email from a teacher or student that said take them down. It makes me wonder how connected we are to to the values of that are in the walls of our schools. So I'm not saying that we table it to make it go away, no matter what anybody thinks at this table. I'm saying let's pause on this. We have erupted. The news people are here because this is such a major thing. Let's not make an impulsive decision. Let's get more information to make sure that we are fully representing the community.
Director Carbone. No. Director Cameron.
I think going back to the conversation about, I think, Kim, that you brought up around policy, I think for me, my understanding, I mean, it's our third meeting as board, right? But that we have not had a discussion about how we as a body understand these posters to violate or not violate any of our policies. We're responding to the litigation that, Matt, that you alluded to. However, we are our own governing body, and no decision has been, no final outcome has been made with the litigation. And so for me, I want to make all my decisions based on, as I said before earlier, but also on what are our policies and how does this, and have a discussion with our board about our thoughts on how this relates to that. And I think we've just jumped to procedure and operations rather than starting from a policy discussion.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So I agree that tabling and to have that discussion, I think there's lots of reasons to table. What Carly has mentioned, what Kim has mentioned, to just ensure that we are doing our due diligence on this topic.
Any further discussion on the motion to table? If there's none, I'll call it for a vote. All in favor of tabling the motion, say aye.
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 All oppose?
Nay.
Nay. Nay. All right, the motion fails. All right, we are back now to Director Thompson's motion to amend the original motion to replace the posters with a new series. Any further discussion on that? Director Nicholson?
No, I've already said what
Any further discussion? If there's none, I will call it for a vote. Let's do a roll call vote. Well, actually, it's just a motion to amend, right? And then we'll vote on the actual amended motion.
Can you say what we're actually voting on? Because now I'm confused.
All right. So now the question is whether or not we are amending the original motion to add in, which we would then discuss, add in the understanding that the board is going to remove the current inclusive series posters and then move forward with adoption and implementation of a new poster series.
I don't think that's right, is it?
Is that correct, Director Thompson?
Can I
Am I
ask-
restating that correctly?
Yeah, so the intent was that to establish a new an excellence campaign, whether it be pictures of our students on our walls, excellence
right,
of
everyone.
our students in excelling in STEM, in art, in theater, having pictures of our students on our walls, something of that nature. So some sort of
All right, everybody. Hey,
Point of order.
So some sort of student campaign is what I was envisioning versus a vote where we just end it and then there's nothing. So if we're going to do something as we move forward, as we focus on academics, as we focus on moving our district forward, I think this has been a very good dialogue, conversation, input from others, especially via email and so forth. But how do we move forward? Back to your question, and how we move forward is putting our students first, showing our students in a campaign where we celebrate.
all right, everyone.
Where we celebrate and highlight the excellence and the achievements that our students have done, academically, athletically, arts, whatever it may be.
Can I ask?
Very long story.
Can I ask? Could you be opposed? Hey, ma'am, please. This is our deliberation. I mean, if you don't want to respect that, you can leave. Okay. All right. You can leave. All right. All right. Director Thompson, would you be opposed to having similar statements that are not, going to get us into legal trouble, such as right in the front row here, better together, everyone is welcome, you matter, as a part of that new series proposal?
No, I wouldn't oppose that. I think that would be great to have. I think it would be better if we had our students in the background in whatever success that they're doing, whether they're robotics champions, debate champions, chess champions, whatever it may be, so that when students come into our school, when you're a student and you walk into our school building, you are a Lakeville student. That's how I see all of our students. That's how we ought to see.
Ma'am, please.
That's how we ought to see all of our students. And so when our students are celebrated with their successes, I think that's the right path to go. But when our students can't read and they can't, they're not at the level where they need to be, grade level for math or science, that's the core mission of what we're supposed to do.
All right. Director Cameron.
I think for me, what I'm struggling with is our role in this. My understanding of us being a school board member is that we work at the policy level. And what we're talking about right now is operations and management. I think we can say to Superintendent Bauman and the cabinet, we want you to take on a new poster series, but to get into the details of what they look like, what is on them, is not what a school board should be managing. I mean, like you said, Brian, we have these larger issues. So let's delegate this to the students, faculty, I work at the university, students, teachers, and others in our community to design something that we could respond to. But I don't think it's the board's work to start dictating or even brainstorming what should be on posters. I think that my other point here.
Hold on.
My other thing that I want to share is that I just want to, for the record, for clarity for me, is that we are deciding. The motion is not taking Superintendent Bauman's recommendation. We are discarding his recommendation for a different motion. Is that correct?
We're not
never a
discarding
motion.
his motion.
Yeah.
We just have to vote on the original motion that was already on the table. And so the one that we're actually voting on right now is the amendment to the original motion.
But we could
his
amend.
amendment.
This could be amended again.
It can be amended again, but we got to vote on his motion first through Robert's rules.
Yeah.
Correct.
Any further discussion on the motion to amend the original motion? All right, I will call it for a vote. All those in favor of amending the original motion to now be a motion to remove the existing inclusive series posters and replace it with an academics focus or excellent focus series. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right, the motion passes.
Well, you should call
All right.
for the
You should
other
call
side.
for now, and can we do roll call, please?
Yeah, we can do a roll call.
Thank you.
So I thought we were just voting on his amendment.
that's
We
what I
are.
was trying to
It is just an
articulate.
amendment.
Okay.
Yeah. Ms. Elsing, will you call a roll call vote on that?
Ed Swanson,
Aye.
Brett Nicholson,
Aye.
Brian Thompson,
Aye.
Amber Cameron,
No.
Carly Anderson,
No.
Paul Carbone,
Aye.
Kim Baker.
No.
All right, so now we are on the motion, the amended motion. Any discussion, more discussion on the amended motion? Brett?
Can I make a motion to follow Superintendent Bauman's path forward?
So,
Am I allowed to, I
I think
guess?
this whole
It's a
motion
point
has
of
to be turned down
clarification.
for you to
yeah, I
then
think we'd
put
have
in
to
the other
vote
one.
on this motion and have it fail, and then go.
Because you voted for his motion.
Yeah.
And then you could make your motion.
Confusion about what's happening.
So,
I mean,
right now, the motion,
I think-
the existing motion, original motion has been amended, and so now that is the motion in front of the board.
So are we voting?
So if there's no discussion on it, we'll vote on the amended motion, which will be to remove the existing poster series and replace it with something, with a new series, academics and excellence focused.
So I'd like to
Director
I'd like to amend.
Please don't.
I'd like to amend this motion I want to amend the motion that has been approved, or the motion that's been approved, the amended motion that's been approved. I'd like to amend it by, instead of excluding all, keep the "We Are Stronger" and "Everyone is Welcome, Everyone Belongs," those two posters. That is my amendment to the amended motion.
2 posters or 3 posters?
Just 2. The "We Are Stronger," the first one, and the "Everyone is Welcome, Everyone Belongs" poster.
And then we'd continue to, but we'd still do a new
Those are the
new
two that
poster
I would.
series.
Those are the two that I suggest we keep.
All right.
Can I just clarify, Mr. Baumann, you recommended keeping the ones that
6 of them.
Okay.
Well, with,
All right, hold on, you guys. This is a discussion of the board. It's our deliberation. Yeah, you guys are more than welcome to be here, but if you're going to disrupt the discussion so we can't finish this, we are going to have to ask you to leave. So please be respectful so we can work our way through this. We are talking out loud. Again, what? All right, please be respectful. I mean, we can ask people to leave. I don't want to delay things. I'd rather not remove anybody, but let's be the adults in the room. Okay, people yelling things is not going to help push this along.
Chair, we can also take a recess if that need be for the audience to calm down or for people to be escorted out.
All right, are we good to continue? All right. So you're making a formal motion. Just so I'm clear, which ones are you talking about?
It's the first one on the far left where it says where the kids are drawing on the street or on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one where it says "Everyone is welcome, everyone belongs."
So those two.
Can I just make one point? I think some of these can you answer this, Mr. Baumann, are some of them more for the elementary schools versus the high schools?
I think they're displayed.
Well, I know the Black Lives Matter one has an elementary version and a high school version. Are the other ones all, like, those ones are up at the high school? I think those are elementary.
All
So
right.
like that is where we probably want to be mindful of, we don't just want them up in the elementary schools, right?
Right. I mean, I think the "We Are Stronger Together," "Everyone is Welcome, Everyone Belongs" should be in all of our schools. I mean, those are, and the reason I think I like them is because they have similar style, similar artistic design. But that's my amendment to the motion.
All right. Is there a second on the motion?
I'm not seconding, but
Is
point
there-
of clarification.
Yeah.
So you mentioned to Director Nicholson that he's not allowed to make a motion. So I'm make an amendment. I'm sorry. So I'm curious, why are we amending then?
So
He wants to make a new motion.
yeah.
So he's making an amendment to his already amendment of the motion.
I think his is also an amendment.
So you can amend the motion to
I'm just
remove
saying.
everything, or just the Black Lives Matters posters, is what I'm,
His
right?
is an amendment as well.
Is that the motion you'd like to make?
I would like to make the motion to follow Superintendent Baumann's direction, because I think that was part of what got us in this situation in the first place. And if we followed his direction, I think it's beneficial.
All right.
I would only point out that.
We still have a motion.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. We're still waiting for a second
okay,
on
sorry.
Director Thompson's motion to amend. If there is no second, we'll be back to the original motion. Is there a second? All right, there's none, so the motion fails. We're back to the original amended motion. Brett, are you requesting that we amend that?
Can we just vote on that one
Yeah,
and then
let's
just
just-
start over?
I would love
Can I
to
just
vote
say-
on that one, because
Can I just-
I think at the time, right now, it gives us a good compromise between what people want, what I think the situation that we're in, and I feel like it actually gives us some level of path forward in terms of moving forward. We can develop an excellence campaign. We can start a poster series that lines up with what this board has envisioned for the school district, as well as incorporates everybody. I like the way he phrased it, the way he laid it out, made a lot of sense to me.
Isn't that what
Can I-
Personally, I like that, and I would love to make a motion like that.
No.
So can
I
we?
just want to raise one concern about that. I feel, again, I come back to, we haven't talked as a board about whether any of our posters violate policy. So someone very astutely pointed out today that Black Lives Matter is a statement we should all be able to embrace and get behind. Has an organization been politicized? Absolutely. But it doesn't make those three words political in our schools. And I would personally love to hear, and please, I would personally love to hear from our students. It might be the case, we have a Black student union in our high schools. It might be the case that they don't like those signs. I don't know, maybe they do. So part of this is we don't have inventory, we don't have data on what these signs are doing. And we have not discussed as a board whether or not we really feel those violate policy.
Director Thompson.
Yeah, back to what you guys shared earlier, it says it violates our policies. I think in the 8th Circuit, it said that. But that defeats the purpose. I mean, let me rephrase that. These posters are designed to be inclusive. And so when we've got posters that are designated based on someone's skin color, does not make it inclusive. You've got, if we want inclusive posters, we need pictures of Asians, Indians, whoever, like a variety of different things. And so when
All right,
we've
everyone.
got,
Hey, all right.
so if we want inclusive posters, where it gets challenging is that where do you draw the line? Who's in the inclusive poster? Who's not in the inclusive poster? And so when we've got two that are specifically calling out a specific skin tone, like that doesn't make any sense. We may be causing, results that we may not be with positive intent, with that particular design. And so I don't know. We weren't here when these got created. My recommendation is it's a new year, it's a new board. We should start scratch, start fresh, and focus on academics, but that's my perspective.
I would agree with that.
All right. I think we're back on the original amended motion.
should we
So
vote-
let's,
should we
if
vote
there's no
for-
discussion on it, let's call it for a vote. We'll do a roll call vote. Again, the motion is to, the amended motion rather, is to remove the inclusive series posters and replace it with a academic excellence theme and whatever additional variations we agree with as far as including inclusivity in that discussion. Ms. Elsing, will you call the vote?
Brian Thompson,
Yes.
Carly Anderson,
No.
Kim Baker,
No.
Paul Carbone,
Yes.
Brett Nicholson,
Yes.
Matt Swanson,
Yes.
Amber Cameron,
No.
All right, the motion passes. I think that probably wraps up our discussion on the topic.
I don't know, I want that. I still want that.
Can you repeat that?
It was the wrong motion.
I think that wraps up our discussion on the topic.
Did I have to say no?
We'll be back here in 2 weeks to discuss finances, if anybody wants to be involved in that, and another 3 weeks to discuss academics again.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. We're adjourned.
Okay.